And now, since Obamacare and these issues have come up, the women are in my grill, no matter where I go. And they come up, when's your next town hall? And believe me, it's not to give positive input.
Yeah, they showed up here.
Here,
Today,
so
15 minutes ago.
Right, and so on my Facebook, there's a whole new paradigm going on the official side, the campaign side. We're going to take away people's rights. And these are intelligent people. I met one of the women in my neighborhood at a high school event last week. Government thing I spoke on when they just got done going over on enumerated powers and all this stuff. Before the kids on Constitution Day, and mom comes up and says, I can't believe you're going to get rid of Obamacare. We have a right to it. And I go, did you miss the kids half hour earlier on? I don't think health care is in the enumerated powers, right? So I didn't say that. I try to be Christian, right, and kind. But she went at it, and she was quoting CBO, right? She knew CBO. She said CBO is scoring Obamacare. You're going to get rid of health care for 18 million people, and costs are going to go up. Well, I said, that's a little counterintuitive, though, isn't it? I mean, we're going to get rid of 18 million people, and costs are going to go up. I said, how can that happen? Right? But that's the way CBO scores things. It's totally upside down. But that is what they say, and that's what they're quoting, and the left has it down, right? And they're out in whatever, 2 million in D.C. and Denver and Chicago and New York, and they're out, right? So that's the new thing. So what I want, I'm going to kind of work this backward, but the ask is, everybody in this room, everyone in this room knows this stuff, right? We're all in agreement, and so keep sharing the ideas. You got to have the ideas out there. But we need to get really organized, right? We got this one small little entity in this country that's got probably 100 million people in it that's underutilized. It's called the church.
Yes.
Yeah. And so get with your churches and help us identify which churches, Catholic, Protestant, Evangelical, Hispanic, African American, we're all united on that, right? And that's, if we can unite on that, that solves a lot of issues. And then help us, whatever district we're in, me and Rob and whoever's here. Is Tom still here?
No.
Yeah, right, good. Well, whatever district you're in, help us organize those lists of churches, the good guys who are supportive, and help us message, help us write newspaper articles. We're getting hammered, right? The Richmond Times-Dispatch, anybody read that anymore? It's unbelievable on a daily thing. The other day, they said they're going to pray for everybody. They're praying for Trump and, who was it? And Hillary, so there's a juxtaposition there, right? We're going to pray for Trump and Hillary, and then we're going to pray for Tim Kaine, and it should have been me. And instead they prayed for Barbara Comstock up in Northern Virginia. Right? So, and they do this intentionally. I'm not paranoid. It's unbelievable. But the things they put in that paper, they're just little things every day. They got contradictions all over the place. Yesterday, 2 days ago, they said, I don't know, we hate Trump. And then the conclusion was you shouldn't hate anybody. They start off with one, read these things, and it shouldn't take too much critical thinking to form a response. Like, you just contradicted yourself, right? And just write in like crazy. But we need to get organized. So then now I'll give you the motivational speeches why you better get organized. Everyone is in a good mood after Trump wins, and we got huge executive orders being fixed and constitutional stuff being fixed, and the border's going to get fixed, and Russia and China, and that's all good news. That's going to happen. The biggest set of good news that's going to happen is the regulatory piece, right? Because the House and the Senate and the White House, we're all in agreement on that. So that's going to happen, right? $2.5 trillion. If you get, that'll help to get free markets in this country. That will happen. But the biggies, the two biggies are Obamacare, and I'll go into that in a minute, and then tax, and then Steve Moore and Kudlow wrote an article yesterday in the Wall Street Journal. And they're saying they already see the writing on the wall of politics, right? So let's just do the corporate thing because we don't think we can get the personal income thing through. And they're just kind of giving into political expediency because of what the Senate is going to do. So go read that piece and you'll see the logic. I won't go into detail, but it's all sitting right there. Right? And so I thought, I said, how is this going to work out, right? You got Trump in the House and the Senate, we're all going to be a team, it's all good. And wait till you see what's coming on Obamacare, right? If you ever think the House Freedom Caucus isn't valuable, You wait till you see what's coming up. There's a fight. I talked to Jim Jordan yesterday, and he said, man, this is going to be the 6 months, the best wrestling match I ever had in my life. So that gives you, we see what's coming. So what's coming in the Senate, Obamacare, repeal and replace, right? And so there's some guys in the House that don't want to do a replace now. There's some that want to do a replace now, and they're all worried about passing stuff before their next election 2 years out. And that's what's in play, right? So a large part of the House wants to push it out 3 years after our election, and then that's when Trump is running. And so that's within the House, and that's you can deal with. At least you can have a conversation, and then Trump can weigh in and, right, the eye of Sauron comes in and he'll blow them up, right? They'll turn into sawdust very quickly. But the Senate is a bigger problem. And so the Senate last week, I was in a budget committee meeting, and everyone saying, here's what we're going to do, here's our talking points. I said, I don't like these talking points. Right, and all these new freshmen are in there in the budget committee, and they're like, these keep cracking. I can tell on their face, they're like, and I go, yeah, you can speak your mind. You represent a million people. You should speak up. And so they were going over what the talking points were going to say. I don't think that's what's going to happen. And one guy said, well, you got to be very careful with your language. I was talking about the Senate. And he said, some of this is just linguistics and misunderstanding, so you got to be careful. And this was a leadership guy, right? So he's giving, you can't say that. You're confusing people and you're getting us off. So that took me off, so I got out my cell phone, and so I Googled Senator Ron Johnson's quotes. I said, I don't want any ambiguity here with my language, right? So I'm very concerned that you're concerned about my ambiguity, right, to my colleague. So the tone got a little cold. And I said, so let me make sure I get it right. And so I read off the thing. I said, Ron Johnson, quote, repeal and replace is just a buzzword. End quote. New quote, we need to work with Democrats to fix Obamacare. End quote. I said, and this is a moderate to conservative, whatever, senator, Republican, saying this. The liberal guy that heads healthcare in the Senate is just all out, right? Let's just have Obamacare and whatever. So they're scared of their shadow, same old thing. And so what's going to happen, right? They're going to pre-negotiate a deal with the Senate. It'll come to the House, and then it's going to be all or nothing. And we're going to vote for a non-free market setup. And right now, under the current rules, or this gets a little technical, whatever, but there's reconciliation, right? That's the way the Democrats got Obamacare through, with 51 votes in the Senate. So now we can do reconciliation, so that's what we're going to do, right? So we voted on a budget resolution 2 weeks ago that opened the door for it. It was a crappy budget, so if you're all mad at me about that, I'll explain that later. That's not real. That, I'm just telling you, is smoke and mirrors. So that was the vehicle, so we can do reconciliation, but in reconciliation, you can only do policy that has a budgetary impact. So we cannot get rid of all the insurance regulations, right? Pre-existing conditions, all that kind of stuff, under reconciliation. And so then we can get rid of it, though, if the Senate gets rid of their Senate rules, right? And so right now we have a Democrat parliamentarian running the U.S. Senate. For this, I'm not making this up. And so we haven't fired her. She will rule against us getting rid of the insurance regs. We've got a Supreme Court nominee coming up. We will probably go nuclear on that one. But that one, we probably, Mitch said we're going to do that. But this is, and that's a generation of law, right? So that one we got to get right. But this is a fifth of the economy we're talking about, right? Obamacare. I think this is equal to that. And so this is one of those once in a generation things, right? And I'm serious, once in a century, where you're going to have the House and the Senate and the President and a person like Trump that will dictate, right, something. And so the Senate right now is going to be a block. The House Freedom Caucus is going to have to block back. And we're going to have to say no to that deal that comes down, right? And we can probably block that. And that's what I anticipate is going to happen. So we'll see about that, right? But the logic coming out of the Senate, they're not going to do anything near free market, right? And just so you know, so I'm encouraging you all to get writers that you know, right? And shoot us, get Overload Phil's inbox with friends that you have in every county I have. Newspaper writers, volunteers, people that can help demonstrate on our side. We need activists coming out on everything. But what's at stake, and here's what the press never reports, right? So Obamacare is health care, and our Medicare and Social Security and entitlement things blow up in 15 years, right? They're all installing, right? They make up 100% of federal revenues. I think you all heard me say this a million times. 100% of federal revenues go to only mandatory spending in 10 years. So in 10 years, there'll be no money left for the military, transportation, education, judiciary, running courts, laws, anything. In 10 years. Medicare and Social Security, boom, in 10 years. Your kids will have nothing in 50 years. Right? And that's the ethical piece. The press will not report on that. So, of course, everyone wants everything right now. Right? Everyone, of course, in the short run wants everything. And then what you got to remind them of is your kids also are something right now. Right? And no one ever brings that up. If we continue on this path, so then what's that path? Kaiser, right, the biggest insurance company, the average family plan of 4 right now is $17,000 a year. Right? That's just the average family of 4 healthcare plan, $17,000 a year. The average family income in Henrico, Hanover was about $65,000 a year. Right? So that's the average family. Then pay taxes and you're down to 50 or something. Right? And then pay your mortgage, this, that, and the other thing. And how many families have 17 left for healthcare? Nobody. So is that sustainable? No. And that's the hard part, right? So I was with the head of St. Mary's Hospital yesterday. The head of the board up there at the event we had in Spotsylvania. Rob and I were up there, and I talked to her, and she's probably a Democrat, but very intelligent, super person. And I said, in my view, my dad ran HMO back when I was a kid, and so I grew up with all this stuff. I said, the major problem with healthcare is politicians are running it. Right? You have us say, we can't say no to anything. Right? We need to say yes to get votes. Right? Unless you're from the 7th district where I could say no and I still somehow. Right? And that's why I started where I did. If I don't feel that support from you guys again and feel that it's constant and have emails, hey, Dave, I got a church with 800 people. Here's all their names. They all love you. That's what I want to see in my inbox. Right? They all got your back. I dare the Dems to say anything, right? And we're going to message as a church and whatever. Instead, I met with senior Catholic leaders up in D.C. on the March for Life. I said, hey, we need your help. I said, you got 70 million Catholics, right? And K-12 education won't mention natural law, Aristotle, Aquinas, any of the Catholic teachings, any of philosophy, no ethics at all. They're getting rid of history. Higher ed teaches the Catholics are evil, right? The church has been a negative force through our history. And I don't hear anything. And so that's our challenge, right? So if you're Catholic, Protestant, evangelical, Jewish, get in there. I was in Israel before Christmas, and I gave a talk. And oh my word, just so you know, Israel's all pro-Trump. You never seen anything like it. I know this room was divided 6 months ago, right? I was like, boy, there was Cruzians and Trumpians and whatever, Randians and whatever. Israel is pro-Trump. It's 100%. It's unbelievable. And I'm in that room, I give a little talk, and I said, I'm a politician, so I got an ask for you. And I said, the ask is you need to get more evangelical. So they start laughing. So they get, right? And they had to ask for us. He said, we need help with the State Department and water rights and all this kind of stuff. I said, well, yes. I said, the problem in my country is 2/3 of the Jewish community in the U.S. is not necessarily pro-Israel. And I said, Harvard is anti-Israel 95%. And Yale and Princeton, etc. And those 3 universities produce all the last presidents, and they're stacking the State Department. I said, so if you're following the logic here, we need your help. I can't get in the middle of an in-house dispute within Judaism, right? I said, you need to clarify with the Jewish friends we have here and get evangelical on what is the Jewish position in the U.S. on Israel and on the State Department and appointees and everything. And Netanyahu's 100%, right? And Trump is a loyalty guy, right? He's total about loyalty. So guess who he's most loyal to? The evangelicals. He knows he got 40 or 50 million votes. right? So he's totally loyal. He's going to be totally loyal to Israel. They know that. And that's what I'm talking about, spreading this kind of a message that unifies all of us. I've been writing pieces on Martin Luther King out in the paper to try and unify everybody on that, right? Everyone forgets he was a PhD in Protestant theology, right? He's part of the Judeo-Christian tradition. And the left just has totally stolen him and said it's about leftist Marxist justice stuff. It's false on its face. He never went outside of that Judeo-Christian line. And every great thinker, that's what you did, right? All the Western civ, that's what they did, right? It was philosophy and the Judeo-Christian religious tradition. And so that's what we got. Everyone in this room, I just urge you, get out and be evangelical and message like crazy. Because those tough votes are coming our way. And if we have, and I got a great district. So I know how hard it is. Some of our guys, if you're up in New York City, Republicans, San Francisco, Illinois, they do have tough seats, right? So I see that. But that's not what it's about right now. When it's 1/5 of the economy and we wimp out on Obamacare, right? The costs are exploding. Healthcare is the major driver of Medicare, Social Security, veterans issues, Medicaid issues. It's all health. And we can't say no. Right? So the people at some point have to say, hey, and one of the easiest solutions is right in the principles, right? Nick was getting at it, the 10th Amendment, right? The federal shouldn't be involved because we're printing money on Obamacare and